All right, it is 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting of the Glasgow
No,
Electric.
your audio just went live, so
Okay.
All right.
he's ready when you are.
So we'll call to order the March 24th, 2020 meeting of the Glasgow Electric Plant Board. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda and any additions. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Got a motion, can I get a second?
Second.
Got a motion second. All those in favor of approving the agenda for the March 24th, 2020 meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Second item on the agenda is consider the minutes of our previous meeting, February 25th, 2020. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting, please?
Motion.
Got a motion, can I get a second?
Second.
Got a motion second. All in favor of approving the minutes of the February 25th, 2020 meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Big item on the agenda tonight is consideration of our response to the COVID-19 threat and its impact on our customers. Billy, I know there's been some discussion about what we're going to do internally and how we're going to approach some of this from maybe try to give a little relief during these times to some of our customers. Can we go over that a little bit?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I was planning on trying to reassure the community of all the things that we've already done. We're acutely aware of what our mission is, and so a couple of weeks ago, as this thing was bearing down on our community, we began to take steps to try to blunt the effect of it on our customers and also to reinforce the network and and when I say network, I include the people that work here because the stuff out on the poles doesn't work unless they're here. So we've done a lot of things to try. As you can see, the room is sparse tonight, and we've tried to make sure we don't run into each other very often. We've broken it down into shifts so that we've got people that never are around each other because we're afraid somebody will come up with it on the team, and we can't, we don't want to weather the problem that would have of us not being able to meet our mission. So, but the first thing that we did, as I've got here, is that we decided a couple of weeks ago to waive disconnects for non-payment. As we saw this horrific economic impact coming at us, I thought that was the least we could do until you guys could meet. And it turned out to be something that virtually all the utilities have done. That doesn't mean, I wish that it could mean that means that electricity is free. It's not. We're just not, right now, pending your all's decisions, we're not disconnecting for non-payment, not for electric non-payment, not for cable, not for internet. We've also waived the late payment fees, which are pretty minor compared to the actual cost of the product, but right now, we're not even accruing those to the customer accounts, pending your all's directions on what to do about that. We closed the lobby about a little over a week ago. We made the decision, which is pretty tough, because we have, for the past 20 years, been in a lot of customers' houses. When people had trouble with TV working in one room or had trouble with their internet service, we would often go in the house and troubleshoot it, and we've had to stop that. Now, doesn't mean we're not troubleshooting it. We've got a lot of clever people who have figured out ways to meet people at the front door and coach them on what they should check. We've had people, amazingly, we've had dozens of new internet customers that found where people that had our cable service but found themselves being the guardian of kids that were out of school and needing internet service. So trying to establish internet service in homes where it's not been there, it's been a little more tricky because you got to install a cable modem and you got to run Ethernet to the computer or to their router, whatever they've got. So we've done some things like stick it through the window, put the router, say, under the house, and so far we have been successful and getting people the services that they want through a lot of clever innovation by our people. Our people do have PPE, personal protective equipment, gloves and what have you. They don't have masks. And we, 2 weeks ago, when we decided to make this move, told them that the underlying issue would be, if you don't feel safe, if you query the homeowner and if they don't convince you that they're not ill, don't convince you that at risk of being a carrier, then you don't go in. And that's when we developed the ways that we could do short of going in. And so far, it's been working. As I said earlier, we've altered the team schedules. We've got 2 line crews, and we've got them working on shifts where they're not in the same room with each other. We're probably going to need to go even further than that. I just watched Governor Beshear's address right before the meeting, and he's ramped up. The next thing is businesses have to close if they're not essential to life. He said he was going to distribute the written order tomorrow, and I fully expect that electric utilities will be essential to life, so we'll still be in business. But that kind of sends us the signal that the steps we've taken so far might not be enough, that next thing we may do is just work one of those line crews 1 week and have the other one sit at home, hopefully in quarantine, waiting for their turn the next week. So we've got a few situations like that that will probably be our next step to do. Now, I think one of the questions that automatically comes up is how is this reduction in businesses being open and all actually impacting the electric plant board? So I grabbed this slide. This is the month of March. So as you can see, all these gray lines are every day in March so far. These green ones up here are average that are peak days in previous Marches. So that great big difference between here and there is how it's impacting the electric plant board. I mean, that's probably 10–15% reduction in energy sales is how this has impacted us. And we don't really have, the whole month of March hasn't included this shrinking of commerce that we've experienced. So the story is not fully in on that. TVA has been in contact with us, and they're doing, let's see, I kind of got my stuff in the way here. Let me see if I can just drag that up. Okay. So they've ramped up their communication with us. They've signaled that they may begin to take a lighter touch with us on regulatory things, the rules that we usually have to go by. You'll note that this is copied and pasted from an email from them. So, and this is going pretty far for TVA. Potential flexibility, which doesn't give you the warmest feeling that you like, but it's better than no potential flexibility. They're talking about things like some of their resource people, the people that do these energy right inspections and field accounts, that they may redeploy them to maybe even come to our communities and help work food banks and stuff like that. So they are thinking outside the box, and I greatly appreciate that. They've suggested that if this bill that's trying to get through the Senate right now includes federal funding that could somehow come to TVA, that they certainly would be interested in sharing that with us. Who knows? I mean, there's politics involved there, and I don't know how much weight to put on that. And of course, they're trying to constantly give us a couple of emails a day, giving us advice on what everybody else is doing, and most of it is stuff we're already doing. And then this stuff down here is just their summary of what they found out from us, that almost everyone suspended disconnects. We knew that. Everyone suspended prepaid disconnects. We did that. telecommunications installs stop going inside the house. That's us. Of course, we're all worried about how this lack of doing non-payment disconnects is gonna impact us financially. And I've got information on that for your all's consideration. And then splitting the staff up. Most of this is stuff that we're already doing. So it's nice to know that at least that we're not alone on that. Let's see now. Oh yeah, I got ahead of myself. So, how will the lack of disconnects impact the Glasgow electric platform? Let me move my moving pictures back over here. Yeah. Okay, so this is a little chart that shows in normal times how people pay their bill. So this means that in normal times, 88% of our customers pay their bill prior to the due date, which is very good. 11% more, which adds up to 99%, also pay during the grace period, the time between when it was due and when they might get cut off. So we're enjoying this 99% payment pattern. Then 0.7% pay it after it's been disconnected, and 0.3% gets written off. That's what, that's what exists. That's what we have enjoyed for years, or at least this goes back for the last couple of years. The question you all would expect me to try to answer is, what's going to happen now? So not having a perfect crystal ball, we've taken a stab at what's going to happen now. And that's all it is. We made just a scientific guess that this 88% will degrade to 75%. That the people that still pay before cutoff, 5%. So those two together would replace the 99% with 80% of people that are paying their bill. Leaving these two, 14 after disconnect, but if we're not doing disconnects, that really doesn't count. So you add these two together, and right now, our projection, and these other slides that I'm going to show you are based on this projection, that 20% of the people, 20% of the amounts owed to us during this time when we say we're not going to do disconnects will go unpaid. And that has a pretty chilling impact. So the blue bars here are historical, again, the way it used to be. And the orange bars are just a different way of presenting those projections with a new kicker. That right over here on write-offs, every time you come to a meeting, you can expect in your financial packet to have seen something where our write-offs for 6 months ago was somewhere in the $8,600 range per month. If that becomes 20%, that's going to become $178,000 a month, which I don't have to tell you is not sustainable. Can't do that for forever. So the next question is probably, well, how long can you do it for? This slide just puts the math together. We normally bill right at $3 million a month. And if it's 20% that don't pay, the math is $595,000 a month in reduced revenue. If we don't charge late fees, that's $12,000 a month. And we can lean the $20,000 or so from the TVA credit that has not yet been earmarked by the board. Can lean that against it, but it doesn't go very far. So that results in us a $587,000 a month shortfall if we continued what we're doing today, which is not doing cutoffs for non-payment. So I asked Melanie to produce a chart that hopefully is some kind of readable that gives you an idea of when we cross over into the trouble zone from where we are today. So this blue line right here represents our burn of our cash on hand. And the slope of this line is at that 20% people not paying their bill. So the slope of this line is right now, this month, is based on our projections. And another month, when those projections can be weighted some by experience, we'll find out whether this line should be steeper or flatter, just depending on whether people respond to this by 88% of them doing what they used to do, which is pay their bill on time. If they're closer to 88%, then this line would flatten out, cross over at a later time. If it's worse than the 70% that we projected, we'll be troubled a lot sooner, like 1st of May perhaps. The trouble line here is based on our bond requirements, on the Moody's projection saying that they want us to have 90 days of cash on hand. So that's what's represented by this line. This gray line over here is another asset that we have. We have a $3 million line of credit with South Central Bank that, if we started hitting that line of credit, would extend our trouble out to somewhere in the November timeframe again, at the slope of the line that is created by 20% shortfall in our payments. Like I said earlier, same problem. If it's worse than that, the slope of the line is going to be a lot sharper, going to fall down here. If it's better than our 70% projection, it'll be more out here. So that is the difficult task that is in front of you all. I mean, I stepped in and said we're going to forego disconnects until the board can tell me what they really want to do. So that's the status. And this answers the question that I thought you would ask. It's what I would ask if I were sitting in your seat. How fast are we sunk? So this attempt to do that using projections on what people are going to do.
6.5 months.
Do what?
6.5 months is,
If you burn through, of course, remember, this is not free money.
Yeah, yeah, right.
If we use that, it's kind of,
Say that.
one way, it represents the same problem that is troubling the whole utility industry that has said, okay, until we figure this thing out, we're not cutting people off for non-payment. Well, it's building a future really big bill. You know, if people go for 2 or 3 months enjoying our decision, generosity, forbearance, I guess is the right word. Well, if you don't make any payments, there's going to be a really big one at the end, because pretty soon we'll be getting into summer weather. The bills will be getting higher.
Say this lasts for 2 months, and these people haven't paid. And of course, after you get back, everything gets back on, sort of on track anyway. How long are they gonna have before they can catch their bill up?
Yeah.
Well, that's your office.
That's what we gotta figure out, and that's one of my questions here too.
Normally, in a situation like that, you would give people as much time to catch up as they got behind. So if you all said, let's forbear until the end of May, then that would be 2 months. And so
Right.
you give people 2 months to catch back
That
up.
would-
But
That
that's,
would be fair.
you all can decide it's 6. I mean, that's a board decision.
Yeah.
But you gotta be aware of these realities here.
So the 6-1 where the orange, the O&M expense not met line kind of comes up and reaches with the excess funds.
Yeah.
What is that representing right there on that little?
That represents
cross?
the first time we hit the line of credit.
Okay, I see it. Gotcha. Have you made arrangements to get rid of, or to stop temporarily at least all non-essential upgrades and any large projects that maybe are not considered immediate?
No,
Immediately
because
needed?
I don't
Are
think
they all
we ever do
considered immediate?
projects that are non-essential.
Well, I mean, I'm saying, I know we're looking at stuff in the future, you know, projects got in the future,
Well,
but.
yeah, and I've got one to talk about tonight, but the big work that's going right now is, I mean, we got a contractor in replacing rotten poles.
Yeah.
And most of those, a lot of those are transmission poles. You just can't not do that, because another part of my discussion tonight is to reassure the community, you and the community, that we've got this. You know, the network is functioning in a world turned upside down where people don't know, certainly have never seen anything like this and don't know what's coming tomorrow. We feel confident that our grid will keep delivering electricity, cable television, and internet services, and it's doing a heck of a job doing that. And I don't know how better to, you know, salve the sorrow and fear that the community has, other than saying, this will not go away. This is gonna keep working.
Right. Has TVA given us any indication of whether or not, being a pseudo-federal governmental entity, that they may have some relief to the LPCs in the form of payment?
They
Is
had, you know, that email was pretty generic, but the meeting that generated that email included the suggestion that they may, in effect, do the same thing as that line of credit we have with South Central Bank, that they may give us more forgiving terms on paying our power bill.
Yeah.
That they may, if,
So that'll
We're
help, that'll
losing
help with
half
this
of-
curve too, if we can get some relief from
yeah.
our distributor.
It would,
I'm
I
sorry,
guess it would,
distributor.
it could, in effect, move this curve up some here, because we had more credit.
And move the bottom line out.
Right.
Several months.
It's just that, you know, at the end of all these, it seems like a lot of people are willing to extend us credit, but we
Yeah.
can't, we gotta, as you all know, you're in business, it's a heck of a difference between having a line of credit and having a line of gifts. Nobody's offered us any gifts. Now, I haven't read that whole multi-billion-dollar bill that's being considered. Maybe it has us in it. I doubt it, but.
But it should, or at least some variation of it in the future should.
Yeah, I mean, energy
I mean,
infrastructure.
we're in a little bit better position considering we're a TVA affiliate and it's backed by the federal government rather than being investor-owned. We don't have to look at a bailout for a private industry rather than a government-owned industry.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that, you know, we'll be the first to get some relief if there is any,
But but also we're in kind of an unfortunate position because, you know, one of the first things that happened when this was coming down the pike was that state public service commissions looked at the investor-owned utilities and said, you're not gonna cut anybody off.
Yeah.
And their position with them is, you'll just have to quit paying dividends, you know, you have to take it out of your stockholders somehow. Well, we don't have anything like that. And as we've never kept much cash on hand.
Right.
So it is, one of the things you all are challenged with is trying to answer the calls of regulatory agencies like the Public Service Commission, even though we're not subject to the Public Service Commission. When they make an announcement that's on the front page of the paper that says, we've directed the utilities not to turn anybody off, nearly no one understands that that is not us. That we're not directed, because the Public Service Commission only regulates entities that are not publicly owned like us.
And that's not to say we wouldn't do it anyway.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it's,
it's just
you know,
that at
we've done
some
it
point,
voluntarily to start
if
with.
there's a fork between what your all's belief is and what the Public Service Commission's belief is, it'll be another difficult thing for us to explain to the community, but something.
So this being as fluid as it is, I don't think any decision we make tonight needs to be more than 30 days out. I mean, we're gonna have to revisit this each time, I think, that we come in, see where we stand, get us a, you know, a base, you know, which we can compare, you know, to, and then move forward based on whatever data comes out from that point, you know, up to that point. So I think whatever we're looking at is probably gonna be a 30-day decision either way.
Right.
And I agree with that 100%, because we don't wanna cut our own throat,
No.
because we have no
We don't
idea
know.
what's
We're-
gonna
we're-
happen.
We're lacking data.
Yeah, we have no idea what's gonna happen.
And,
I think 30 days at a time is,
That's right. So, and then if necessary, we can always call a special call meeting if we had to address any.
That's really what I
Emergent
expected
concerns,
you all to
you know.
do is, in 30 days, we'll have better data.
Right.
We'll know if our projections are anything like accurate. Of course, the data we're gonna have is gonna be from March and April, which aren't exactly high consumption
Transition
months. So
months, yeah.
it'll be more data. Will it be more accurate? Not technically, but it'll be more than you got now.
Well, we may not have data as far as what the impact will be, but we'll, hopefully at that point, we'll have more data about what the severity of the
Or how
overall
long it might
environment
last.
is gonna be. Yeah, so maybe we can get a little bit of clarity on how the next 30 days are gonna look.
I
So,
understand. That's really what I expected you all to
yeah.
do. Okay.
Of course, according to Uncle Andy, this week's gonna be the worst.
yeah.
Here are the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, the next week or two,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, well, the next thing on the agenda is a nice simple thing. It's just that we've had one bank, when we talked about, when you all authorized us to remove some people and add some different people to our check signing privilege, we predicted that that wouldn't be the smoothest thing in the world, and so far, it hasn't been. In particular, People's Bank asked for a specific resolution to be passed by the board and get into the minutes, and I sent you all a copy of it.
Can I stop just for a second?
Heck yeah.
Do we need to address item number 3 in the form of a vote as to how we're
No,
gonna?
Mr. Chairman, that would not be a bad idea.
Yeah, before we move on to number 4. So, so let's talk about this a little bit. First of all, if anybody has any ideas, want to put it in the form of a motion, we can discuss it. But I feel like at this point, it's imperative that we go ahead and give some relief to the customer. For the next 30 days, we're not gonna suspend for non-payment for either cable, internet, or electricity. We're gonna suspend all late payments up to that time. We're gonna ensure that we've got adequate credit facilities in place to allow us to cover any of the shortfalls. And what about deposits and some other things like that that we've not even talked about yet for new customers that may be coming online? Are we still gonna be accepting the deposits?
Well, the most common new customer signs up for iPay, which doesn't have a deposit.
Okay.
But there are still those, especially commercial, where we still ask for security.
Okay.
And unless you all direct me otherwise, it's kind of hard to see
Any of that really?
how this
Yeah.
situation would lead to us not trying to have security. But
Okay.
that's up to you.
Well, I think it's about conserving dollars
Yeah.
for essential items, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what the federal mandate and the state mandate has been, is to try to keep as much cash in people's pockets as possible to get them through, you know, either medical emergencies or food emergencies or whatever they don't anticipate. So that's the only reason I was asking, but I think you're right. I think commercial accounts are probably gonna be exempt from that. I'd say we're not gonna have a whole lot of that right now anyway.
I would be
Well,
shocked.
You know,
As far
just
as
to have-
residential goes, I mean, people are still out looking looking for apartments like, just nothing going on in the world, you know?
Right, right.
But now, the ones that are moving in have got their money. They've got their money for security deposits, they've got their money for
Okay.
utility deposits.
Okay. So we'll leave deposit requirements in place, for now.
Because they always have the iPay option.
Okay. And then we'll just give relief on the disconnects and the late payment,
Yeah.
on the late payment penalty. And then review this again in 30 days. I mean, I think that's gonna cover just pretty much a continuation of what we've already been doing
Yeah,
for 2
I'm
weeks.
assuming you all want this on the agenda every month until.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna have to review. So I'll entertain a motion to, you know, regarding what we just talked about, and let's keep everything in place the way that it's already a continuation of what we've already done, if y'all agree. I'll entertain a motion, or we can take other discussion. Anybody want to amend that at all?
I'll make a motion that we suspend disconnects, waive late payments for the next 30 days.
Okay, I got a motion and a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All's in favor of suspending disconnects for cable, electric, internet for the next, and late payments and penalties associated with them, for the next 30 days till our next board meeting, and then we'll revisit. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Okay, good catch. So that takes us back to the good old,
Number 4.
signing an additional resolution requested by People's Bank for us to change the signatory authorization. I sent you all a copy of it, or I can pull a copy up here if you want. It's not much to look at.
So it's just a resolution, just asking us to, just your standard bank resolution,
Yeah.
for every corporation's gotta do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish they would have a standard one.
Yeah. So, entertain a motion to go ahead and sign the resolution, open up additional bank accounts. I think we've jumped through all the hoops from everybody, right? Everybody's got all
Yeah.
their social security numbers, their cards in and all that stuff.
We're in the process of it.
Okay. So entertain a motion, open new bank account, sign the resolution for the opening of a new bank account. We'll entertain a motion for that, please.
Motion.
A motion of a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor of open new bank account, signing the resolution resulting in such, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Okay, I thought I would put this on the agenda to get us moved away from just talking about the sad situation that we're in now, talk a little bit about tomorrow, to show that we're still thinking about tomorrow, and to solve some issues that we have when we come out the other end of this. We would like to exploit the flexibility, the flexibility options that we have under the new TVA agreement. But before we really tried to exercise that, we need to know more about operating a especially a photovoltaic generation project. So I've asked Daniel, and that's the guy whose whose head is up there, to put us together some criteria on a small solar array that we could build right here on our campus that would help us answer a lot of questions about how we could make that work, how we could expand it to a big array that would be what the industry calls a community solar project, whether we build a big solar array and then try to sell segments of it to people based on data that we've learned about how much it would save them on their bill versus what the cost of it is, to see if there's a reason to put a lot of this stuff in. So Daniel's come up with this nice little system, 9.3 kW, which is probably something on the order of, a third of a house, something like that, or 3 houses, I'm sorry. And 27 panels at the shockingly low price these days of about $8,000. That's before the hit that the economy is taking right now, so I have to assume that's going to come down even more. We want to also experiment with batteries so that we can understand the value of a standalone solar array versus a standalone solar array that charges batteries. And it just so happens we already own the batteries. We got them in the SET project, and they're already sitting out there installed. So the cost of that would be zero. We would need some kind of ground mount system. We prefer for it to be something that can be mounted on something we can build. We have a digger derrick truck that can dig round holes in the ground, so if we find a round foundation, we ought to be good for that. We want one that has manual positioning. That means that since we have the rates that we have, and the solar output would be enhanced, or it would make it a lot more economically feasible if that solar array was functioning during the peaks each month. So in the winter, we would like to point that thing low in the sky to the east to catch the sun coming up, because most winter peaks are not long after the
So you're just gonna
sun
do
goes up.
single axis, you don't want
Yeah.
to do dual axis, so.
Right, yeah, because all we'd be, I'm
You're just
envisioning
up and
just
down.
moving them once a year, yeah, or twice a year, I'm sorry. So we're guessing that that'd be about $3,000. And then we gotta wire it in, a couple of grand, we use our own people. So really for $13,000, we could put in a pilot project that would answer a lot of the questions that we have. Obviously, we'd like to find out if customers really could save money. If we're gonna try to sell it, there's no way, well, some communities, people want renewable energy even if it costs more. Our judgment is that not many in Glasgow do. So we need to find out if there's a way with our rate structure and the present cost of installing a project, can you do one that pays for itself just from the energy that people save, whether it's renewable or not?
If you got enough time, anything pays for itself.
Well,
The good thing about the panels is
Yeah.
they're 30-year warranties on
Yeah.
the thing. so.
well, let me just say this, since brought that up. One of the things that, and I don't want to say anything that, Lord knows, everybody is afraid enough. I don't want to say anything to give people more to worry about. But one of the things that TVA is worried about, and if I had read you that whole screen that I had up there, some of the plans that they're making involve trying to make sure that they have enough people in these plants. I mean, it goes without saying that when you got a nuclear plant, you've got highly trained people to operate the thing, and if they're not there, bad stuff can happen. And so their plans to respond to the COVID-19 crisis involves making those people spend the night. They're just not gonna leave. We're gonna keep them there around the clock. And those are the proper, when you've got generation that requires a lot of people touching stuff to keep it working. What's the beauty of PV? Don't need any people. So if we
Once a
can
month.
figure out how to make this work with a little pilot project, we hope to be able to expand on what we learn to see if it makes sense to get leases on a lot of land around here and put a lot of this in, so that when, hopefully, that won't be done, hopefully, before this crisis is over, but as these crises present themselves, Glasgow can move in the direction of the stuff touted in that book that I got all of you all to read, The Grid, where they talk about microgrids. Microgrids, are part of this concept that maybe in 2020 and beyond, it makes a lot more sense to have your generation closer to the people that use it, and put enough of it in that a community like Glasgow could function even if the grid that we buy from now fell apart or wasn't available for a long period of time. So it is, I didn't put that up here as a particular element of the pilot project, but it is. We want to understand how we could become more and more self-sufficient, so that when these crises present themselves, we don't just have to get on our knees and pray that TVA's got all this stuff covered, because it's possible that even they could have a hiccup when you've got this kind of pandemic going through. We want to find the cost to scale it up. We want to learn, especially with our variable rate, we want to find out how possible it is to really mitigate demand with a solar system designed to do that. There are several solar projects already installed in Glasgow, but they're not designed to do that. They're laying flat on rooftops. They just look up. They're worthless in the winter as far as helping mitigate peak demand. So you need a different kind of design for a rate that you're trying to target like ours. Of course, we want to expand the whole idea of what people could accomplish with only the solar array, and we want to learn how much better it is with batteries. We know it's better, TAG knows it's better, but it's a lot more expensive. We want to understand where the breaking point is.
Of course, right now, TVA has no residential programs available for solar.
Oh, it would have to stand.
There's nothing
Yeah.
available. So this is the only option for residential
Yeah.
solar, is some type of community solar project utilizing this flexibility
Right.
program.
And utilizing a rate structure like ours where they get some credit for reducing their coincident peak demand.
Right. And speaking of that, based on the conversation you had, are they looking at offering more residential renewable energy programs, or is it just
I haven't heard.
nobody
that.
said anything? Okay.
Well, I mean, look, the standard rate structure in the valley is volumetric. So the impetus to get people to use less volume provided by the distributor is not there.
Right.
But when you got a rate structure like ours, we're suddenly ambivalent about it. We're not selling by volume, so we're anxious to figure out how we can help our customers.
It's all about peak
use less
shaving
energy.
for us.
Yeah. And then, of course, TVA has still not written the rules on the 5% allowance of generation. So a lot of questions about it. It sounds simple, just read that, 5% of your generation. Well, are you talking about just kilowatt, just energy? You talking about demand? Are you talking about what the array nameplate rating is, or are you talking about what it actually produces? There's a lot of questions there that if we can get a pilot going, we'll not only have the questions, but we'll have some arguing points as well to try to.
And refresh my memory, they're supposed to have us something by
Within a year.
a
so
year,
by
so
the end
that'd
of this
be
year.
into this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we are obviously very curious about how our metering would work. If energy starts being pushed back to us, and how we're able to capture that, how we're able to bill it or properly credit the bills, how we present it. What's it gonna look like on your bill when you've got this additional, there's already a lot of lines on our bill. Can we figure out a way to add this? And can we upgrade our portal? And another project Daniel's working on is an app, a Glasgow EPB app, where you get the stuff that you get from the portal just in a more convenient, in your pocket type deal. So
So what we're seeing out in California is a lot of these community solar projects are basically based on a lease. You get a pro rata share of the lease based on what your potential
right, it can't
consumption
be,
is, and then you get a credit on your bill for your pro rata share of the
right.
production.
It can't be so many watts because you don't know if it's going to produce that. So it's
Right.
got to be a percentage of the output.
That's right.
Whatever it is, and we just need to figure out how you would market that. You know, I'd have to get my marketing people to figure out how you cook up a campaign to explain this to people and make them want to buy it. So there's a lot of stuff.
And then if you
For
turn off,
$13,000, it seems like we could get a whole lot of information.
we just have to really weigh right now, there's two schools of thought. I mean, right now, should we be, locking down on everything and watching what we spend? And we're asking, we're telling the customer we're not gonna charge for disconnects, and what kind of impact does that have on us? And, our fiduciary duty to this organization is what we have to be worried about, and this long-term, the longevity of this, and the ability of it to continue to operate. At the same time, whatever we cut back on now, that puts us further behind in the future to be able to take advantages. So which one is gonna be the greater cost? And
Exactly, that's my thought.
not knowing where we are, so I
For a
think,
small amount of money, we can give them hope that we're looking beyond what the virus does. We're planning on still being around, and having other developments that will enhance their life.
And you're gonna want at least 6 months worth of data, because you've got different climate, I mean, you're only gonna catch half the year.
We might want a year's worth.
Well, I know, but I'm saying if they're gonna have the stuff in place by the end of the year,
Yeah.
then it'd be nice to at least have some data gathered so that we can understand, how we kind of fit into that.
Exactly.
So the cost of
And,
that project's 13,000?
That's our estimated cost. yeah.
So, and how much was it, refresh my memory, how much was it that we were putting back to go towards
10
this type?
10 a month.
10 a month, so we
Yeah,
should
so
have that 13,000 plus
It's really
anyway,
an
yeah.
insignificant amount. It'd be insignificant in my house, but
Not in mine. For this organization it is, yeah. Okay, so y'all are ready to kind of move forward with some of that?
we are. I mean, we haven't got specs written. We're not ready to take bids on stuff, but I just wanted to conceptually, I mean, it's small enough, it's below my 20,000. We could have just done it anyway, but I wanted to take your all's temperature on this, before we move forward on it.
And you're set on having the 345 watt panels, and, I mean, if you're gonna test, I don't know if it mattered the size of the panel and some other things. So you
Yeah,
feel like that's gonna be-
it's really just gonna be.
Because I know we get
for
some
the
really
building.
cheap,
Yeah.
about 40 cents a watt out here, if you're looking.
Well, I don't
at,
know. I'll have Daniel talk to you.
250, I know there's some sitting here in Glasgow
We're not.
that need to be sold,
Okay.
because they're not gonna be used, but they're only 245 watt panels.
We're not married to anything. yet.
Okay.
I asked him to put something together that would be a viable, truthful prospectus.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I think if we go ahead and, this is my opinion, but I think this is something we need to go ahead and pursue. We're gonna be faced with this at some point in the future. I think as long as we try to keep the cost as low as possible and be responsible during this time, I don't think we ought to get rid of, I mean, this would be considered, I wouldn't think this would be considered a non-essential project. I mean, this is something that we're gonna have to face
We
within the
do,
next
yeah, we
9
need to face
months.
it. And
So-
$13,000, we probably would have spent 50 if, instead of doing the pilot, if we just hired a consultant to tell us
Right.
these answers. And those answers would still not be Glasgow based.
Right.
Well, I think in the scheme of things, $13,000 is an insignificant amount for the amount of data that we're gonna capture that can ultimately have a huge impact financially on the community.
I would rather gather our own data than pay somebody
Yeah,
else to try to pilot
absolutely,
for us. So,
absolutely. I mean,
you know,
and I've been so excited about the solar projects anyway. I mean, I've been so excited about that, so I just think that's a relatively low price for us to be able to get that data and go ahead and get that research started so that we can go ahead and progress.
Okay?
You wanna make a motion?
I make a motion that we let Billy spend that 13,000 for this solar research. I'm excited about it.
Can I get a second? I'll second it if nobody will. So we got a motion and a second, let's go ahead and vote on it. Everybody in favor of going and proceeding with the project as planned, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Two noes and 2 yeses? And the motion fails.
Yep, it does.
Yeah. So we'll revisit this in another 30 days, see if everybody feels better about it.
Yeah, I mean, you want me to put it on the agenda, or y'all
Sure.
just don't?
Yes.
Yeah. I think,
Don't want me making any plans for the future like this.
I mean, this is something we've been talking about for a long time, and that 13,000 is well under what I expected it to be, so yeah, put it back on the agenda for 30 more days.
Okay?
Because if you do, if people actually read and look at what it can do for the community,
Right.
long-term, it's kind of a no-brainer.
yeah, it's a peak shaver.
I mean,
Yeah,
this
that's
was
what-
the site we were thinking about between those two driveways out there, which would also have a lot of curb appeal. People would see that we're looking at tomorrow. But it'll wait until you all are comfortable with it. Okay.
Superintendent's report?
Yeah, I've got several report items here. I'll do my normal February review, and we'll talk about the April fuel cost adjustment. Talk about where we are on the coincident peak demand ledger. I'll talk a little bit about, well, I'll just do it now since I've got it up there. We have already given community relief $9,000, and there's a $4,500 check on the way to them, so they'll be at $13,500. And so far, they have spent $47.89 of that. I think they've got a few issues to work out. I don't think they've had donations before that have been earmarked to do a specific thing, like you all earmarked that specifically for Glasgow Electric Plant Board customers. So they've got some accounting procedures to work out, but I'm really glad that money's gonna be there as a part of this other decision that you all have made about continuing to waive the non-payment disconnects, because that's a resource that we're.
And I really, really hope that the community takes advantage of the fact that those funds are there to get help with their bills.
I think the way it was explained to me, they have multiple other funding vectors coming to them, and one of them is like LIHEAP or federal. It's government funding that if they don't spend it before a certain time, it doesn't come back. So they were hitting that harder than our money at this time because of the way the system works. So I'm sure they'll get that worked out. I'll report a little bit more than I know about LSC. I want to talk to you a little bit about how the networks and the grid performance, which I talked a little bit about earlier. One thing everybody has noticed is that as we go through this upheaval, we've got a number of churches, schools, businesses that are gravitating in one direction. We're gonna do this stuff online. Churches worshiping online. Schools have assigned the kids to study online. Everybody is online without anybody asking us whether online is capable of doing all of that. But so far, it has performed admirably well due to the investments that the board has allowed us to make in upgrading that regularly. We've seen a 35% increase in the peak IP traffic on the broadband network, and it's running at about 70% total capacity. So far, it's working great. Huge uptick in the number of people signing up for internet services that we really didn't see coming. We assumed pretty much everybody had it, but we were wrong. A lot of people didn't, and they're getting it now, and there's a lot of people. The main traffic running on there is video, Netflix, Apple TV, all that kind of stuff, Hulu, Amazon. People hold up in the house and they're hitting the network hard, and it is responding. Not only the stuff out there on the poles, but my team is responding by making sure it works for everybody. So we're proud of that. And then I'm going to do a little demonstration, which I'm already doing, of how we intend to be able to meet the new Attorney General guidelines for teleconferenced meetings like this one. So, first of all, February, March analytics. I've got a slide in a second, I'll show you on that. The fuel cost adjustment for April is going to be 1.43 cents. It's another decrease, and it's perhaps one of the lowest fuel cost adjustments TVA's ever had. So that's good. Here's how we've performed in February, which is the last closed month that we have to talk about. We called 4 potential peak days. That's represented by those blue lines there. And as you can see, one of those days turned out to be the peak, and we predicted it correctly. It was on Valentine's Day at 8 a.m. And so since we predicted it correctly, our collections were more than what we had to pay TVA, so it was a successful month. Last year, you know, we had a whole lot of months where we missed it and went backwards, but we actually are 2 for 2 so far in 2020. So that means that this little slide that explains where we are on what we call the coincident peak demand fund, which is the quarter that we mark up kilowatt KW demand in order to cover our losses, we're now positive. We're about $15,000 in the black, so that's a good place to be. March looks like it's about over, and we're going to have a small miss. We picked the right day, but we had the wrong hour, so that's going to cost us about $3,000, I think. So it's pretty minor. Here's where we are on people's choices on which rate that they're on. This is virtually unchanged from last month. 1,800 people have gone with a fixed rate. 3,800 people are still on the variable for residential. 348 fixed rate on commercial versus 1,360 variable on the small commercial. You know, the only movement right now is more people going back to the variable because it saves them money. Let's see. We already talked about this, community relief funding. So I don't know why I put it in here twice. We haven't learned a whole lot new about LSC other than they're planning on staying in production through July. We haven't been told what kind of contract they want to evolve to post-July. And of course, we won't know what our total losses are until they tell us what they want to buy after July. So right now, everything is as usual out there from our perspective. If you work there, it's certainly not usual, and our heart goes out to them as well. The impact won't be as great because of our non-volumetric rate design. So that's something we've got going for us. Now, so what you see on the left there is the product that we plan on using if you all want to go to fully teleconferenced meetings, which, given the present health crisis, I would strongly advise you to do. It's pretty simple. We've got a picture of us up here, and if the whole meeting were teleconferenced, then there'd be 5 of you guys and ladies with headshots down through here. The way you do this is you just simply download an app to your phone. So you can do the whole thing looking at your phone. The app we're using is called Zoom. It has become extremely popular during this healthcare crisis. Schools are using it. Apparently a lot of people have been using it for a long time. I wasn't aware of it until my team discovered it and came up with it as a solution.
It's super easy to use, though.
You what?
It's really easy to use, though.
It seems to be.
Yeah, I've been using it for a few
Although
years.
before you all got here, I had it all going, and then we had a breaker operation, which dropped the power here for a second, and I had to start from scratch. But, hey, Daniel, would you like to unmute yourself and speak to us?
Yeah. Hey guys, it is pretty easy if you haven't set it up before. All you got to do is just put an app on your phone, and you get called into the meeting, set up a scheduled time, and you join in on the app, and you can join into the meeting yourself. So I had a little issue on my phone, but my phone is sometimes played with a little too much. I have little kids and myself. So. But my tablet worked just fine. So I switched
Everybody
it.
have a smartphone?
Our plan is to have either Daniel or Josh contact you all over the next month and help you download the app if you need any help. and go over, how to use it and how the meetings would go if, if I were here doing the PowerPoint, but you all weren't actually here, you were here because your head's on the screen, and everybody can talk, and everybody at home on TV can hear you, they can see your heads, and they can see the PowerPoint. I'm amazed that even when I do this, that is actually visible at home on TV, and on YouTube and Facebook, wherever all we broadcast this stuff. So the new opinion that we got from the OAG not only said this was okay, but they virtually directed us to do this. So we're kind of in violation tonight. But by April, we should be ready to do it with none of you all here. It's up to you guys. But the technology will be available.
I mean, I think as long as everybody's got equipment necessary and the ability to get everything set up, and I think it's imperative that we stay in compliance with the Attorney General's ruling and the Governor's, rulings on what we've got to do as far as conducting our meetings. So, I think I don't know necessarily that we even have to vote on this. This has been pretty much mandated.
Yeah, I think
So-
I would feel more comfortable if you put it in the minutes that you're directing,
Right.
if you're directing me to just have a teleconference meeting, then the invitation would be at 6 o'clock, get on Zoom as you've been coached how to do, and I'm not gonna give you the option to come in.
Well, I'll make a motion that we need through some other method, some other type of teleconference method rather than in person for our next meeting. We can revisit this every 30 days as.
Sounds like we're getting a long list of those.
Yeah, I know, every 30 days. If I can get a second on that, then we'll discuss it.
Vinny, are you saying we're in violation?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. According to this memo that I sent you, he was saying how you're supposed to notify people before the meeting that you're not gonna be there, and that you're gonna do it by teleconference, but that was assuming that everybody had the technology.
That was
to do
3
it.
days before our meeting or something
Yeah,
like that.
we couldn't. get-
Friday or something like that.
I'd rather meet eyeball to eyeball myself, but I mean,
Yeah. Well, I would too.
I would too,
but-
but, yeah.
Situation we're in right now, I think we've got to be both,
Right.
compliant and responsible, even if it wasn't
Yeah.
mandated. So, I'm with you, Marlon, but I don't want to,
But
the
we
last
have
thing
to
we
do
want
what
is to
I
be,
thought we were recommending, no more than 10 in our group.
well, they are,
That
but,
was several days ago.
Yeah.
It keeps getting tighter and tighter.
They keep giving different restrictions every day, so.
they just released today, I can't have anybody in my office now. My office is closed in person. They just don't want anybody together.
They're not even gonna wait till April the 15th.
No, I mean, it's now.
Well, now it's July the 15th.
Yeah, July 15th.
I think we need to have it in place just in case
I do too.
they really get tightened up
Yeah.
on it, which they're probably going to.
I
I think it'd be a
agree.
good idea.
Well, and they've already told us that public meetings, public agency meetings are now, I don't know if he said it was mandated or if it was highly recommended that you look for other forms of communication besides in
I'm gonna
person.
read it again, or Ronnie may be able to interpret it for us, but I took it as a mandate. It was like, how am I gonna, we can't even do that yet.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we're
just-
way on down the road.
Yeah.
We're already putting them on TV and on,
Well, just to be on the
social
safe
media.
side, yeah, because let's go ahead and put it in place, because like I said before, we don't know what's gonna happen. So that
try it
way,
next month
we've
and
got
see
our
how
tails
bad it is.
covered.
okay, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for you.
Well,
Right, with Billy Ray, we need to do something in the next meeting, teleconference.
yeah.
Yeah,
So if we want in the meetings, let's go ahead and vote on it and agree that our next meeting will be done through teleconference.
well, I make a
Or
motion
some
that
type
our
of
next
telemeeting.
meeting is done through teleconference.
Okay.
Do what?
I make a motion, our next meeting is done through teleconference.
I'll second. So any other discussion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor of having our next meeting by teleconference and revisiting the requirements at our next meeting for the meeting in June?
But-
See, I mean, well,
April, maybe.
I'm sorry. Our next meeting is April.
Yeah.
It'll be May, yeah, I'm sorry.
Skipped
I missed a
really
month.
nice month.
Sorry. I'm trying to get through this fast. That we'll revisit this every 30 days, just like we've done our disconnect policy. So all those in favor of our next meeting being through teleconference signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Motion passes. So we will try to get everything set up. If anybody needs any help at all, listen.
Yeah, we'll be in contact with each
Well,
other.
this is important that we make sure it's all done correctly. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion to have second?
Second.
We are adjourned.